And we're joined for this hour. We'll be taking calls with him by Robert David Steele. He's a former Marine, CIA case officer, U.S. spy, hacker, CEO. He's probably better known as being a hacker and best-selling author. CEO of Open Source Solutions Network, Inc., and 2012 candidate for Reform Party presidential nomination. Currently CEO of Earth Intelligence Network, an accredited educational nonprofit. He's known for his advocacy of open source intelligence, teaching 7,500 mid-career officers from across 66 governments, and is today the foremost proponent of applied collective intelligence, which integrates holistic analytics, true cost economics, and open source everything. The latter in engineering and information management approach that is affordable and scalable. His most recent book is the Open Source Everything Manifesto, Transparency, Truth, and Trust. BigBatUSA.org, just one of his website. He's got Pi, Beta, IOTA.net as well, all linked up on Infowars.com. Now, back in September, he said here, and I played it last hour, so I won't play it again, that the word he was getting was a false flag with an Ebola simulant to basically create a political smokescreen to block out a political catalyst of true change in this country. Now, I was gone with a family issue. David Knight interviewed him a few weeks ago, and he said, well, basically, I'll let him say what he thinks about what's currently happening. But there's so much to go over. From what I'm seeing, the default positions are being turned off. Ebola is being allowed to come in and spread. Do I think it's the end of the world? No, but it's certainly an example of how they are trying to undermine this country to create a policy of dumbed down poor people who are so busy trying to find their next meal they can't be politically involved. And again, we have a lot of phone calls. You're able to talk to Mr. Steele here today and bring up your points on Ebola. The big question is, what's happening while we're looking at Ebola? We'll discuss that as well. Thank you, Robert David Steele of BigBatUSA.org for joining us. You heard my question. You've got the floor. You made that prediction, or you said, this is what I'm hearing. What do you have to say now? What do you think's going on? What are your sources telling you?
Well, the good news is that instead of a false flag, what we're dealing with is blatant malfeasance by CDC and the NIH, and this Dr. Gucci at NIH should be fired. I certainly agree with you that Klein is not a serious appointee. No czar ever is. Bottom line here is the U.S. government is not seeing to the best interest of the American public.
I mean, clearly it's criminal neglect any way you slice it. But tell us the intel you were getting 2 weeks before this guy is even in the news and 3 weeks before he dies, or 4 weeks, saying, I'm hearing about a simulant Ebola to be brought in as a false flag, and there could be a national strike over it. I mean, that's an amazing statement. I mean, what were you hearing?
At the time, what I was hearing was that there was first off, there was complete confidence that Ebola would not reach the United States, but that it could be introduced in the United States as a means of forcing the issue of passing a draconian quarantine law that would then be abused in the future. What I think we have now is real Ebola showing up because of the hubris, because of the ignorance, because of the irresponsibility of the CDC and the White House. The White House knew 10 months ago this was an issue. In 2004, Brent Scowcroft and others told the White House that infectious disease was the #2 high-level threat to national security after poverty. So now I think reality has trumped false flag. Now, it's still a threat, and the martyrs from Saudi Arabia are still a threat. But the U.S. government has become more of a threat than false flag, if that makes sense to you.
No, I get it. Who needs Saudi Arabian martyrs with Ebola that are carrying it on purpose and vectoring it when you've got a government that just gives visas to people that are clearly sick in countries that are collapsing? I mean, that's just... I mean, I get ineptness. I know that goes on. But the level of ineptness is like batting 1,000. How are they so perfectly inept?
You know, I think part of the reason, and I've thought about this for a long time, part of the reason is that the U.S. government has never been held accountable for actually looking out for the public interest. And what we have now is a perfect storm. Ebola could be an excellent motive. It could be a wake-up call for the American public, the good-hearted, common-sense American public. The government is not serving our needs. Maybe it is time for a general strike.
It's just crazy that you brought that up a month plus ago, and then it just clicked for me Friday. We should have a national strike, just pointing out, why are the borders open? Why are you allowing flights? Why are you issuing these visas? I mean, this could be the catalyst. A lot of people that are smart, like yourself, are saying the same thing. Michael Savage thinks that they've really miscalculated and that this is ineptness.
Well, you know, I used to say that when given a choice between incompetence and conspiracy, always go with incompetence. And then 9/11 happened. And of course, I've seen so many false flag conspiracies since then. 9/11, the school in Connecticut,
Sandy
the
Hook
Boston bombing. So my real concern here is that what we have is a perfect storm in which incompetence has trumped false flag, but at the same time, I'm sorry, I've got something going on here to the side that should not have been allowed to happen. Let me just turn it off.
I know how that is, these damn devices and phone calls.
Yeah, no, forgive me, Alex, because it's an honor to be on your show, and I think you do extremely important.
Oh, we totally get phones and stuff ringing, bro.
Okay.
That's how it is.
So I think CDC has been incompetent. The National Institute of Health has been incompetent. The lead guy for the National Institute of Health is actually a known incompetent from the AIDS HIV time frame.
Yeah, that's what Savage said. He pointed out he's the guy that let that spread. Stay there. I want to break down as an analyst, but a field CIA commander, where you think this is all going to go and what we're not looking at while this is happening. Stay with us.
Stopping this disease won't be easy, but we know how to do it.
Fighting Ebola, the president says a travel ban won't work. So why are so many countries doing it?
A national strike is the answer.
I'm wearing the same shirt I was when I was in the car with that family.
There is zero risk. I said it. There it is. I shouldn't say that. There's no risk.
If there were any risk, I would not expose myself or my family.
A national strike will force Obama and the federal government to secure the borders and stop West African flights.
A travel ban is less effective than the measures that we are currently instituting.
I have a question for you. Do you want to end up like West African countries that are in a stage of panic and total collapse, with the UN estimating that over 1 million people will end up getting Ebola by December? We are calling for a nationwide strike starting next Monday through Wednesday for you to stay home, especially if you're medical workers, police, EMTs that are going to be hardest hit by this, to draw attention to the fact that the federal government is on strike and not doing its default job, allowing these flights to come in. Even the Speaker of the House has said stop the flights. Senator Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, Governor Jindal of Louisiana, but not President Obama. He's out defending this. Now remember, it was someone flying in from Africa that brought it here, now spreading to nurses and clearly others. Why do they want it here? To create a bigger crisis, to get more funding, to be a political distraction from all the other scandals. And the new czar, who works for Al Gore previously, who has no Ebola background or experience, no medical training, he's an expert at divvying up tens of billions in funding to insiders to run the Ebola disaster, where literally hundreds of billions could be made, not just on the vaccine, but on the disaster itself. So go to Infowars.com or PrisonPlanet.com. Get the article with the hashtag #StopEbolaStrike. Send it out on Facebook, out on Twitter. Send our article with the videos of the general warning and others so that people understand we don't have to be powerless and just watch the federal government engage in criminal neglect by design. If you're not essential, folks, or people like myself that have got to be on air, self-quarantine is a test. We'll call it a national strike. Call talk radio, call Congress, call the White House, call media, send out tweets, be an activist Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday to fight Ebola and to stop Ebola with the Stop Ebola National Strike. And never forget, if you're watching this transmission, you are the hope, you are the resistance.